Soboku-e, Simplicity and Playfulness in Japanese Art.
Welcome to the Japan House Shares series. This time, let's talk about Japanese art. The multifaceted Japanese art is not only about the refined, exquisite aesthetic, but also straightforwardness and mindfulness with humor and wit, such as the simple and playful images that are called Soboku-e, meaning ingenuous drawings and paintings. You will also learn to make your own Soboku-e, which is very simple doodling, to light up your life in journals and notebooks. Before we start, allow me to briefly introduce myself. My name is Mew. I was an intern at Japan House when I was doing my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. I did my BFA degree in studio art and art history. As you can see, I work with various styles of art from oil on panel, acrylic on canvas, to watercolor and digital illustrations, as well as performances from time to time. I continued my art history study doing Japanese art for my master's degree. I am currently working on a project to study the design of karuta, Japanese playing cards. So I have always been interested in the way we perceive images and how visual elements in works from fine arts to everyday materials serve different functions across time and space. When we talk about Japanese art, what comes to your mind? The gold-leafed folding screens or the gold-painted lacquerwares? Exquisite and elegant are the two words I would assign to traditional Japanese art, such as works by limpa artists like Okata Korin from the 18th century. I admire the artists' craftsmanship and their use of traditional motifs from classical literature and tales. And so are the traditional style Japanese paintings of pigment on silk or paper. You are seeing a folding screen by the 20th century artist Takeuchi Seiho, who was one of the many esteemed Nihonga painters in Japanese art. The traditional style Japanese painting requires refined skills to accomplish precise and complicated works. The process of making a Japanese painting is almost like a mindful meditation for one to achieve the most exquisite, elegant, and supreme quality of art using the Japanese brushes, mineral pigment, and glue on primed paper or silk. Traditional motifs in Japanese art include scenes of the four seasons, plants, flowers, and birds. Here you see works by two of the representative pre-modern Japanese artists, Ito Jaksu and Maruyama Okyo. Both of them are known for their refined art techniques and their elegant depictions of traditional subject matters in Japanese paintings. But in addition to the elegant and the exquisite, Japanese art is multifaceted, just like how Jaksu and Okyo also worked on whimsical works with unique expressions of conventional subjects like the elephant and puppies. Playfulness is also an essential part of Japanese art and visual culture. You see how these artists are altering visual elements like thin and bold lines, light and thick ink, and colors to create images that bring interesting visual contrast, such as the elephant that takes up the whole space of this ink painting, and the puppies in soft, light brush strokes and gently colored, frolicking in the snow. Art is a visual language for expression and communication. And in today's presentation, I would like to focus on the whimsical and playful aspect of Japanese art, using the concept of Soboku-e, innocent or ingenuous paintings, a word coined by art historian Dajima Arata to call attention to the seemingly less refined visual materials in the history of Japan. Professor Yatsuma focuses on the seemingly simplistic, crude, yet genuine depictions of subjects from deities to the everyday life in the illustrated scrolls of folk tales created by monks and commoners from the 14th century on, as well as folk art and Zen paintings. As you can see, these depictions of humans and animals are so simple, almost clumsy, like any cue of at least the slightest attempt of realistic representation. However, in the eyes of viewers today, it is also the clumsiness in figures and their motions that brings a smile to our face. The round shape delineated in simple lines were the most straightforward attempt from the artists. They were not professionally trained, and they did not aim to achieve any artistic quality equivalent to what we call canonical art today. Instead, creators of this work started with a straightforward purpose to tell the story, convey the message, and communicate with their viewers without sophisticated rhetoric. Reading this visual element and understanding the message demand nothing beyond a shared knowledge. The viewers were usually not the aristocratic or ruling class, but common readers and believers in towns and temples. These works, just like refined paintings we saw earlier, also have become part of the visual history of Japan, revealing an aspect of the cultural life of the people in the past. They are also invaluable visual materials to help us understand the past, relate to the present, and connect with the future. Therefore, on the one hand, Soboku-e paintings were an ingenious gesture for the viewers in the past as for creators to carry out their message in the most straightforward visual narrative. On the other hand, Soboku-e paintings are ingenious to us modern viewers as they present a less embellished version of the visual culture of Japan, a non-canonical aesthetic taste, and emphasizes on the common and everyday life of the past. And speaking of the ingenious depictions of everydayness, the Edo period Zen monks, Sengai Gibbon, was the true master in bringing out the Soboku-e paintings to explore mindfulness in the everyday trivials. In Zen Buddhism, while the Buddha and Buddhist texts are the means to achieve enlightenment, it is up to the individual's effort to reach profound realization. Thus, Zen paintings became a way for Zen monks to express their thoughts on their practices towards enlightenment, so we see subjects from Zen riddles and even from everyday life to emphasize the simplicity as well as the profound in the natural world. The terms wabi and sabi we hear in tea ceremonies are also essential to Zen art. They convey an aesthetic that respects the rustic, the solitary, and the transient. Do you see these characteristics in Sengai's paintings? Look at the simple round curves he used to outline figures and the minimal dots and circles to depict their faces. The act of leaving calligraphic strokes on the paper was simple, yet it was through the transitory act Sengai expresses his thoughts on the Zen riddles and the everyday subject matters. For instance, in the toad painting you see on the right, the scripture by Sengai says, "If Zazen, the seated meditation, can help people become a Buddha and achieve enlightenment," the sentence didn't finish itself, but from the seated toad, we must surmise the second part to be that, how come a long-seated toad is not reaching enlightenment then? In this way, Sengai is humorously pointing out that only the superficial practice of Zen meditation is not enough. Instead, the genuine mindfulness in one's practice is more important. Sengai was particularly fond of a few subjects from Zen riddles, like the puppy. In the Chinese Zen riddle, a person asks if puppies can reach enlightenment, and Zhao Zhou, the Zen monk, answers, "Woof woof," which in Chinese puns with, "No, no." In these paintings here, the puppy is tied to a bamboo stick, so when it trots around, the bamboo stick makes noise against the ground. If you look up his works online, you will see more of his round, fluffy puppies depicted in a casual manner by the artist. The simple even crude art style has another name called hetauma, which means bad but good, producing a sense of humor in their straightforward forms and gestures. These casual drawings, like Sengai's puppies, look even adorable, consisting of very simple lines and curves to produce easily recognizable features. They almost appear to demand zero technique and can appear in your notebook and journal doodlings. And that is absolutely okay as a way to express ideas and thoughts through the most genuine form of visual narrative, and these drawings contain their own aesthetic taste reminiscent of Zen art, to convey and communicate in the most rustic, simple, and natural form. Therefore, you can make Soboku-e too. Just pick up a pencil, a pen, or a brush to jot down your ideas and visualize them in the purest forms of lines and shapes. In the center is a very random calligraphic work I did, inspired by an Edo period illustration of school kids doodling in a calligraphic class using Japanese characters to portray a monk. And on the right, you see more nonsensical ink paintings of mine. The top right is a drawing of a torpedo pretzel using simple brushstrokes and unapologetically situating this random bread in the center. It's a drawing of my own character Mew Mew, an imaginary creature that is always carefree and lives in the moment. In this practice, there is no standard aesthetic of good or bad. What matters is whether drawing helps you convey your ideas and express your thoughts on everyday life. These delightful little drawings are sparkles that you see and transform for daily life, evidencing your existence and your mindfulness at the moment. Here are more of my random doodles I made in my notebook and journals. Personally, when I take notes or write in journals, I jot down what I see and what is in my mind, and these little drawings help me mindfully record the present. You see, Art as a personal daily practice does not need to be good or refined. Rather, it is a mindful and meditative practice for a person to express their ideas at the moment. It is a way to communicate with oneself while leaving delightful and ingenuous traces to mark the transitory yet timeless. Art is the visual language for expression and communication. If a simple, genuinely made drawing can bring a smile to a person's face and remind them of a specific moment and time, what matters if the lines are simple and the shapes are crude? And here are more of my works based on my random daily scribbles that eventually turn into works about my original characters and imaginary friends. These are cute little drawings that might not mean much to others. However, what is more important is whether this practice can help you as a way to express thoughts and ideas to communicate with yourself. And perhaps these simple lines and shapes that bring you to smile can eventually give you inspirations for projects you're working on or take you out of any slump you might be currently in. Especially during this strange time of COVID, when in-person communications become more difficult than online communications, how about sending a message card to your friends online with your honest drawings to express your thoughts and ideas? That's it for my presentation today. Thank you very much for listening. Try to pick up a pencil, pen, or even a brush to try doing some Soboku-e yourself. Remember, art is not only about the refined and the sophisticated, but the simple and the natural can be profound too, as a meditative practice to be mindful in the present.
Japan House would like to extend a special thank you to Mew for donating time and much thought into today's presentation. We invite you to go to Facebook to watch a live Meet the Artist with Mew. Join us on Sunday, November 8th for our next Japan House Shares, featuring Chef Suzuko Enomoto making kids bento.